All right, we are live from Klitmoller. Welcome to the live coaching. Today is going to be a bit short because I just got off the water. I got off the water 5 minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago. Drove very quickly to Klitmoller from Hansom to get on the live stream. Today wraps up the final day of our windsurfing masterclass in Denmark 2021. It was a great week. We didn't get the conditions that we hoped for, but we did have a lot of learning. We had a great week, a great time. There was a lot of progress throughout the week, a lot of discussion, a lot of learning from each other, which is really one of the best parts of these masterclasses is learning from the group. You know, I'm giving my input, giving my information, but it's the group dynamic that really makes it special. Hey, Cosmo, and everyone sharing their journeys together. Hey, Jorg. So today wraps up the final day. The course actually ended on Friday, but we had these reserve days in case we didn't have much wind during the week, which we didn't. We sailed a few times, three days of sailing. I'll post some of the video in the group. It was difficult conditions though, really difficult. And today had a great forecast up here in cold Hawaii. So we decided to use the reserve day for today. And yeah, the conditions were good. It was sketchy at first because we had this great forecast and we thought it would be turned on by 2 or 3. And so we got to the beach at 2 or 1 to be ready for it. And there was nothing, dead flat. And we're waiting. We waited for, how long did we wait? I don't know how long we waited. We waited till like 5. So we waited maybe 4 hours on the beach. It's dead flat. Alex, the champion from Copenhagen, went out to work on his forward loops. He was doing his forward loop exercises, going way out to sea. I was getting a little bit worried how far out to sea he went. But then we made the decision to move spots where it looked like there were some waves coming in just around the corner, even though it looked kind of choppy and kind of more onshore. And that decision really paid off. The waves came up and it was a lot of fun, and the waves were rising throughout the day. The conditions were not epic, but we had head high plus waves. I was powered up on a 5.0, so pretty solid conditions to end the windsurfing masterclass in Denmark. Hey, Dom. Hey, Greg. So it was a great end to the week. I'm going to try and sail as well tomorrow. It looks like there might be some starboard tack down the line conditions coming up. How are you guys doing? How was your week? How was your sailing? Hey, Dom, you said you're watching the use. That's cool. Hey, Jeff. Jeff's on the way to the beach. Nice. I hope you score. That sounds great. Yeah, we had a great week. I want to share some of the things I learned. We didn't have much posted in the group this week, so there's not a lot for me to go over, which is great because I'm not really in the position to, just having come off the water, just a few minutes ago. I sailed till dark. And one of the things I noticed is how harmful wishful thinking can be. And I want to go over that. So I want to talk about the harm of wishful thinking. Maybe it's the harm of optimism. I'm not sure what we're going to call it. Someone's got to come up with a name for it. One of you guys can think of it. Dom, Jorg, Jeff, maybe you guys have a suggestion. I'm going to go into it in a second. Meanwhile, if you're here watching the stream, say hi in the chat. Hey, Max, let us know if you sailed, if you didn't sail, what else you got up to. I love hearing from you guys, hearing where you are in the world, what you're up to. All right, so the harm of wishful thinking, the harm of optimism. So I like thinking positive, even if I don't always do it. Hey, trolls. Greg says optimism is healthy. So let me explain what I mean, because it's something that I noticed popping up a few times throughout the week. So we didn't have the best conditions, as I'm sure you guys who have been following this course know up here. Normally it's better at this time of year in Denmark. But we went to make the most of it. And so even though we had light winds, there's great training that you can do for wave sailing in lighter winds, working on tacks, working on jives, working on transitions. And those are great conditions for doing that work, because when the waves are good, when you want to be working on your forward loops, when you want to be working on your jumps, when you want to be hitting the lip, you don't want to be worrying about tacks. You don't want to be focusing on tacks. You don't want to be using your mental energy, right? We've only got so much mental energy that we can use to focus on tacking on those good days. So it's good to use the days that have less good conditions, less wind, to work on transitions, to work on those tacks. Hey, Ragnar-san. So anyway, so we've got one of these days, and we had to drive north from Klitmoller in order to find the wind. It was quite a mission just to find the wind. The team did a really good job keeping their spirits high, going to get the wind, and we have to climb over this big sand dune to get to where the conditions are. And so what I was saying is rig your biggest gear. And it looks a little bit windy, kind of onshore, and everyone got excited. And I would say about half the people didn't rig their biggest gear. They rigged their second biggest sail. And then they were underpowered. And I mean, they would probably be underpowered anyway on their biggest gear, but way too underpowered on the second biggest sail and setup. And so it was hurting them that they were hoping that the conditions were better than they were, and maybe expecting that the wind would come up because the forecast was for a bit more wind. And today we had a similar situation because the forecast was really solid. We had this totally solid forecast, and it was supposed to come in at 2 or 3 really full waves by 5, 6. And that didn't happen. And so there was an energy, and I felt this in myself, I felt it in the group, not to change spots, because we thought, well, we're at the right spot for the forecast. It's going to come. But the right decision was to realize the reality and move up the coast where the conditions were not as exciting as what was promised in the forecast, but still really good. And so the point is not to be too stuck in the wishful thinking and to enjoy what's there. And so that with the example of the gear, it means going out on your bigger gear if that's what the wind is, rather than rigging smaller because maybe you like the small sail or maybe you want it to be windier. And I really noticed this in myself as well. I love my 5.0. I mean, I love my 5.5 as well, but there were times in the past where I didn't love my bigger sails as much as my 5.0, for example. And so I'd want to really go on the 5.0 or my small board. I love my 82, but I don't like my 92 as much. But then I'm on too small of equipment and I can't catch waves. I can't get around, and it's detrimental to my sailing. That wishful thinking is detrimental to my sailing. And so we really want to make sure that we're paying attention to what the conditions are and rigging for the conditions, and we're paying attention to what the conditions are, even if the forecast is different than what shows up, so that we're not waiting for the forecast. We're acting on what is there, what is in front of us. We're not getting too wishful with our thinking and missing out on the reality, because there's a lot of great work that can be done with what you have, rather than trying to go out on a smaller sail or waiting for the wind at the spot maybe that the forecast says is going to be windy, when there is another spot around the corner that's maybe a little less good but is working. And it's a very difficult line to balance, but I think if you're more aware of the reality, it'll be better for your sailing, and you'll have more fun in the end. So that's what I mean by the danger of wishful thinking. All right, guys. So there was not a lot of Steen, Matt, Max. All right. So the chat disappeared. Now I see you guys are in the chat. Cool. Yeah, Max. It's so important not to be too hard on yourself. That's what's one of the biggest deterrents to learning, is being too hard on yourself. Rasmus. Yeah, you got to be comfortable on big gear. 6'3" and a 92-liter board. Dom. I think the guys did change the gear eventually to match the conditions. But my point is to try to do that sooner. And also a heuristic is that it's always easier to rig down than it is to rig up somehow, or it feels better. So if you rig a little bit too big, it's not that hard to then come in and rig down. You're kind of excited about it. Whereas if you're out there and you're like not getting going, it kind of sucks to rig up. Lenny, you weigh 92 kilograms. I think depends on your level, but I think you want to have a board that's, so I'm a similar weight to you. My main board is 88 liters, and I'm on that in almost every condition. But I think for most people with that weight, you want to be around, you could have a main board that's around 93, 94 liters. You could have a floater that's around 105 liters, and that will be solid. I know the chat keeps disappearing. Robert, wind but no waves, 4-2 conditions. All right, guys. Hey, David, I wonder if anyone else has something to share about the dangers of wishful thinking. So just to recap, you know, what I mean by that is when you rig too small because you want it to be smaller, or maybe you really enjoy your small board, so you go out on your small board because you think it's windy enough, when really you should be on your bigger equipment, or not paying attention to what the conditions are and kind of acting on the forecast, because forecasts are not perfect, right? Forecasting is not perfect, right? It's can be pretty good in some locations, but it's far from perfect. So I wonder if you guys have some examples. I've got to keep, I don't know why the chat keeps hiding, of that. Just as side point is, I think it's really important to be comfortable on your big gear. You know, when I started competing, I wasn't that comfortable on some of my bigger sizes, and I forced myself to get comfortable on big boards and big sails. And man, has it been nice, because now if there's very little wind, I can go out, have a ton of fun. And sometimes I'm heavy and I can be the only guy out where it's too light for most people. And I'm heavy and I have so much fun. It's just because I've put the time in to get used to those big boards and big sails. Yeah, Dom. Crowded spots can be difficult. That can definitely be difficult. It can be good to find little sort of pathways when it's really crowded in a beach break like you have. Like, you know, there's some areas where I feel like people are going in and out sort of in the same lane, and sometimes you can find a slightly different lane that works. But I know it's difficult. I grew up in a super crowded spot. Hokipa's super crowded, so I'm kind of used to it. But I know that it's not hard. For catching waves, going way out to sea helps, but that can also be difficult sometimes to see the waves. Definitely tricky. Yeah, Matt, interesting. And Ragnar as well. Yeah, I like that advice from Ragnar. The gusts are handled by the twist in the sail. Look at the base wind, so don't rig for the gusts. I hear a lot of people say, oh, it's so windy on the outside. It's so windy on the outside. But a lot of times that doesn't matter at least for what I'm trying to do, because I want to be in the waves, right? And so I want to get out and I want to have power on the waves. So I can be super max overpowered outside, but still happy because I've got a sail that can get me out through the break and gets me powered up when I'm on the wave. Max, yeah, that's an interesting struggle. Coming back from an injury, gaining weight. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a learning curve there. That's something I'd like to hear more about, because that story sounds really difficult. So Max went through an injury, gained weight, and, went from being a very good, competent 80-kilogram sailor to a 100-kilogram sailor. And that's an interesting story. Max, I'd love to hear more. If you're comfortable writing about it or recording a little video, I'd love to hear more of your thoughts, and struggles and successes. That's pretty interesting. And yeah, that struggle is real. Anytime you come back from an injury, the struggle is real. Things change mentally, physically. I wonder, so you talk about the physical difficulties, Max. Do you also have mental difficulties? Do you have mental blocks because of the injury? Yeah, Dom Dom says you can always jump. If you can surf, it's cherry on the cake. I like that. Yeah, it's been a great week. I'm trying to think what else I can say. There's a lot that happened, and I'll try to come up with some more from the week that you guys might find relevant and interesting. When I do these master classes, I'm also learning so much. Not only am I trying to teach and try to teach everything that I've learned in my 20 plus years of windsurfing, but to learn from all of you, and to learn from the people in the course what works for them, because that can then help me to help more people. And it's so cool seeing the group dynamic. You guys are so great. Yeah. All right. I think I'm gonna call it a night. I gotta get some dinner. I'm gonna get to bed somewhat early, try to wake up early and get some down the line conditions in Klitmoller. Thomas is saying heavy sailors cannot use four-batten sails due to less stiffness. I don't know if that's true. I'm pretty heavy. Depends, define heavy. I'm 93 kilos, 92 kilos. I don't know. I'm pretty heavy. And I use four battens. I like them. All right, here Max's story. Three slip discs. Ouch. Yeah, let's connect off the live stream, Max. If you're comfortable telling your story, and people can hear from it. Yeah, I'm heavy. I gained a lot of weight from my injury, which mostly comes from my physical training. I gained most of the weight in my butt from doing a bunch of exercises for my legs. My legs are much bigger than they were before the injury, just from all the training. But I don't know what my ideal weight is now. I've got to, coming back from injuries, and then having, in the last year has been crazy. I mean, I've been injured, had new baby, lots of stuff going on. Anyway, sounds great. You guys sound like you're in a good place. I hope you get wind this week. I'm going to connect again with you guys all on Sunday. I'll see you in the group, in the Facebook group. Remember to post photos, videos, questions, all of the above. You guys know the drill. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next live stream. And I'll try to share some of the video footage and some of the other things that I've learned and that the group learned this week. All right, take care. Have a good week. Signing off. See you in the Facebook group. See you next Sunday. Take care.